Hello everybody, my name is Leo Russ. I am a founder of SoftwareID.net. Over the last 15 plus years, I had been working as a software engineer for a number of large corporations such as United Health, MCI, Sprint, as well as multiple government agencies. After my last contract had expired, I decided to apply my expertise to benefit local communities in northern Idaho. SoftwareID.net is in the business of helping local residents, businesses and private citizens alike with their computer needs such as software training, custom software development, web design, and other IT-related services. I am currently working with local organizations Clearwater County Economic Development Council, State of Idaho Economic Development Council, and various departments of Lewis Clark State College. In order to promote computer literacy, I am planning to set up a series of workshops intended to provide basic understanding and knowledge of computer fundamentals essential for business and personal development. Recently, I attended 2 workshops organized by Clearwater County Economic Development and came to a realization that small business owners struggle to get their presence on the internet. They need more training in order to understand and take advantage of available technologies and services they not only need, but also can afford. I will cover basic operations required to proceed further with the more complicated practical goals, such as creating a personal or business web page. What you're about to watch is the first tutorial in the series Computer Fundamentals. My goal is to remove the mystery component from everything related to computers that seems to intimidate many of you. Thank you, and let's get started. In order to perform any meaningful function with the computer, our work has to be saved somewhere. So we need to know how to create directories, delete directories, create files, edit files, rename them, reorganize them, because this is an essential part of development process. So any work outside of clicking Facebook icon involves some kind of file manipulation. So let's start here. But first, let me attract your attention to the desktop that I have here. This is a standard Windows desktop, Windows 7 style, but it's not actual Windows. It's an emulator. It's called Classic Shell, that is installed on top of Windows, because Windows 10 already comes with a reasonably designed desktop, but Windows 8 and 8.1 don't. And using touchscreen for development the touchscreen interface for development purposes may be challenging. At least I couldn't do that. So if you happen to have Windows 8 or 8.1 and touchscreen interface, then consider downloading Classic Shell. It's a simple, straightforward process. You do search for download Classic Shell. The very first page that comes up is actual Classic Shell download page. We assume that your language of choice is English, so you click here, and then you are presented with the pop-up window. You have an option: save file or cancel. So if you do save, the file by default ends up in the downloads directory right here. This is an executable file. It has an exe extension. This means that you can double click that file and it will get execute automatically and install program on your computer. Another executable file format is MSI. So if you ever download a program with MSI extension, you can also double click that file name and the program will execute. Some programs are distributed in the form of an archive with the zip extension. These programs need to be extracted first. For that purpose, I use 7-zip. It's a free utility, and you can look inside the archive, or you can extract it. So once the archive is expanded, then you can uh, click the executable file within that archive, and it'll behave just like normal executable file. Alright, so once we're done with this, let's concentrate on to cancel, and so let's see how the operating system is organized. So this PC is the top level. These three items are hard drives. So let's look at it as it's your house and you have three cabinets in that house. So first you need to specify where you are in my house. Next you need to specify which drawer I want to operate on. So we are in drive F, and in drive F we see folders in the root directory. This is called root directory, the top level in the drive. So if you look at the root directory on drive C, you'll see multiple folders, and there are folders inside of folders. It's like boxes inside your cabinet, and there are smaller boxes inside those boxes, and there are folders with envelopes, and envelopes contain files. So all this hierarchy is pretty obvious, but just don't need to be intimidated. It's very simple, straightforward. So in order to create directory, all you need to do, right click, free space in your file browser, file manager, and click new, and here's your option, create folder. So let's call it my folder 1. You can create any number of folders at the same level or deeper. So we may create yet another folder and call it my folder 2. So these are siblings, they're at the same level. Inside each folder you can create yet another folder. So that will represent a box inside the drawer, inside the cabinet, inside your house. So let's call it subfolder 1. There is no limit to the depth of hierarchy within this structure, but there is a limit to the length of path which is address to this to the item you are providing a pointer to. So you need to make sure that this total length does not exceed 260 characters. If it exceeds that, then you may lose control, lose access to the bottom level components. But it's really difficult to achieve that. So generally you have nothing to worry about. Now inside subfolder we can have another subfolder if we need to, but let's create a file. So we'll create file. Now when you're creating a file, you have an option to choose file type. However, when the new file is created, it's empty, it doesn't have a structure. What you're really creating is an address, a pointer in memory on your hard drive to the location where the file starts. Then when you add contents to the file, then the file gets formatted for the specific type. But at this point there is no type associated with it. However, since it has extension txt, this file is associated with Notepad++. This is Notepad++ application. It's a free application. It's much better, no matter how you look at it, than what comes with Windows standard, like standard Notepad. What's important is that this is a basic text editor. It has many options, but the resulting file is plain text. This is very important because when you're writing code, if you try to use Microsoft Word, that code probably will not work, because Word is a word processor. It inserts multiple special formatting characters and other things that don't get processed, rendered correctly by the browser. So use only basic text editor. So how does the operating system know which application to use to open a file type? So if I click this file, it's opened in the same Notepad++, because Notepad++ is associated with this extension, or rather this extension is associated with Notepad++. If we remove the extension, and we're getting a warning here that if you change the extension, it might become unusable. Let's say, for example, you have a drawing with AutoCAD drawing with DWG extension. You change the extension and you attempt to open it in text editor. What you get is garbage, because that file is already formatted, it contains data, and the application you are using it to open it needs to know how to process that data. So in this case we don't care, and here's the icon, a type icon that changed to blank because the operating system is thoroughly confused. It doesn't know what to use. If you attempt to use it, just double click this file, you're gonna get a question: what application do you want to use to open that file? If we replace the extension with something that is familiar to the operating system, for example Microsoft Word, the icon changes to Microsoft Word. So from now on, this type of file, this file is open with Microsoft Word. So let's rename it back to again, we get warning that we changed the extension, and we'll say yes, good. Now there are cases when you may want to be able to open TXT file in different applications. For example, when you do web editing, you have a specific HTML file with the extension HTML. We'll get to that, but just as an example. So you need to be able to open that file in text editor for editing, for actually writing code, and in the browser. And the browser is what HTML file is associated with. So let's say you want to open this in some other application. In that case, you can do open with, and you can click any application that is listed here. Or if it's not listed, you want something else, then here's your choice. You can add, and it will show you more applications. So you choose the application you want. If you just use this application, then this file is open in that application only once. If you want to persist that behavior, you want to change, for example, TXT files by default are handled by Microsoft Notepad. So you downloaded Notepad++, and from now on you want TXT files to be opened by Notepad++. So you find Notepad++, click this checkbox, and next time all TXT files are open by Notepad++. Now the next thing to keep in mind, Windows is case insensitive, meaning folder name, file name, case does not matter. For Windows, it can be this, or it can be this, or it can be this. The operating system will find that file. Same goes for directories, case insensitive. However, when your website is deployed to the external server, most likely that server utilizes Linux operating system. Linux is an open source operating system the entire World Wide Web runs on. It's a replication of a commercial Unix operating system, and it is case sensitive. So if you specify a reference to a file with not exactly same case as the actual file name, the operating system will not find it. So your site that may work perfectly fine in Windows will not work in Linux. So keep that in mind. So it's a good business programming practice to use correct case consistently. Okay, it's next. If we want to delete the directory, we just right-click that directory, click delete, and it disappears. If you want to reverse your last action, there is a Control-Z shortcut. So you're pushing two keys, Control and then Z, and your last action is reversed. So we have that subfolder again. Exact same process works with files. If you want to rename your file, and you inevitably will rename files because your application, your website grows, you add files, you add directories, you change structure, you find that something is not organized the way you like it, so you will have to rename them. So there is a number of options for that. You need to highlight. That's the first thing you do. You highlight. You tell the operating system what exactly you want to perform action on. So you can move, you can copy, to a specific place, or you can copy generically and then show where you want to copy it to. So that's one way. The other way is rename, and yet the third way that I use, it saves you time, because when you perform multiple operations, it's a lengthy process if you go through the menu system. So if you click this file twice with the short interval between the clicks, it may take some practice, but eventually you get used to it, and it becomes automatic. So here's your opportunity to change the file name. You can change it to whatever you want. As soon as you click on any area outside of this label, the file name has changed and the changes are persisted. This is a fancy word for saved. So when you come back, if you change your file name and call it 1, then you move out of this folder, get back to that folder, and here we go. The name has changed and persisted. So from now on, this file name is my ext file 1. So deleting files in directories is exactly the same process. You can either delete it from here, from the menu, or you can right click and delete here, or you can simply push delete button on your keyboard. The file disappears. That's what I did now. So if you want to reverse your action, again it's Control Z and it's back. There are other shortcuts and extensions shortcuts that we can use. Copy, paste, and cut. So copy, obviously, copies a file. So you can copy the file into clipboard. So this file is copied into operating memory, meaning if you shut down your computer, this information disappears. The file remains there, but a copy in memory does not exist anymore. So sometimes we make copies of large sets of data and forget to paste it somewhere and persist and save, and then when something happens, the computer crashes or you just reboot it, and that information is lost. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Also, by default, in its original state, Windows maintains only one item in the clipboard. There are applications, very convenient applications that I use that allow to have multiple entries. For example, I can have multiple entries here that I can choose what to paste, so I have multiple clipboards. But it's not something that comes with Windows. I just find it very convenient when you need to manipulate text in a code file. It's very useful. So the next, so copy, there is a shortcut, Control C. So you can do Control C, and then you can paste it, Control V, and the file is pasted. The copy of this file is pasted. Now, remember that the operating system can maintain only one file or one directory at the same level. So within the same box, you can have only one folder with same name. You cannot have two folders with the same names, because computers don't like assumptions. People do. So it knows exactly when you are referencing a certain item, it needs to know exactly which item you are referencing. And the only way to maintain that order is to keep unique names. So we copied it here, and it automatically extended its name space copy. So it's not the same file anymore. You can cut the file. So again, you can do it through the menu here, or right-click, cut, or you can utilize shortcut, which is Control X. The difference between copy and cut is copy obviously maintains the original version. Cut, I'm just pushing Control X. It removes, see the icon is vague now. So it's ready to be cut. It's not cut yet. Until it's pasted, it's not cut. But inside the file, so let's say in this file I have a line. So I need to tell the operating system what exactly I want to operate on. So I need to highlight it. And if I click Control X, the original line disappears, but I can paste it anywhere else. I can paste it multiple times. As long as it remains in the clipboard, the operating memory, I can paste it anywhere I want. So when you're creating a new file, it has no name. So you can create the file in the operating system in the file browser, or you can create it in the application. Any application has its own facility to create files. So it's a new file, so you enter some data in this, and if you want to close that file, it asks you, do you want to save it? If you say yes, it asks you where you want to save it to. When the file is saved once, then next time when you make changes, the program will automatically save it with the same name, so it will update contents of the file. If you made many changes, then you cannot go back. It's already changed, saved, persisted. That's it. It's there. So your other option is to say, no, I don't want to save it. And there is a shortcut for saving, and I missed it, so let's put it here. It's Control S. These shortcuts are universal among all programs, so you can do this in any program. You can push Control S, and the file gets saved. The only exception I know of is Windows Notepad. For some reason, it does not follow this schema, and you need to do alternative S. Then it knows that it wants to save it. The other subject I'd like to cover is path. Path is very important. It's the address to your location. Let's say address to your file or address to your folder. For example, you have images stored in the images folder. So in your website, you need to, the HTML file, you need to specify which image you want to display on your page. So in order to do that, you need to tell exactly where that image is located. So I can show you what the path looks like. So I want to copy this path here and then do Control V, paste it. This is the path. This is the path to the contents of that subfolder. If I want to specify a file, then I need to copy file name and again Control C, Control V. This is a fully qualified name to your file. So if you want to display an image, for example, it's here. If you want to create a file within subfolder, you don't specify a file name, you don't have to, and the application that creates that file knows how to name it, but it knows where to put it, what box it belongs in. So the path, folders, and file names are case insensitive in Windows, but they should be, you should treat them as case sensitive, otherwise you're up to major disappointments. So the path is the directions to an object. So let's say this is planet Earth, this is United States of America, this is state of Idaho, and you can add here your city, village, or zip code, whatever. So this is precise set of directions to your item. Now I want to mention that Windows uses backslash as a path separator. Linux, and that's what I mentioned, you probably most likely will have to deal with when your site is deployed, uses slash. This is one of very few cases I am aware of when Windows behaves in an intelligent manner. Windows can handle both slash or backslash. So I can probably quickly demonstrate this. So this is a terminal window, a command line window, so I can change directory. So I'm in data now. It's in this case I'm using it pretty much as file explorer, but I want to see the path. So whenever you change your directory, the path is displayed. Your current location is displayed here. So if I do cd c like this, it understands it. If I go back here and use backslash instead, it still understands it. But again, since our area of interest is Linux, use slash instead of backslash. Now, there are a few other notes I would like to make. First of all, when you downloading software, some programs have different versions depending on your operating system, and not just your operating system, but also type of your operating system. So you may have Windows 32-bit or Windows 64-bit. So I can, so I want to show you how to determine which one you have. So you go to this PC, right-click, Properties, and you are presented with this window. It shows amount of memory, which you probably don't care at the moment. So it shows operating system 64-bit Windows 10. So make sure you specify that correctly when you're downloading programs that require that. However, there's one thing to consider: it's backwards compatible, meaning 32-bit application will work on 64-bit operating system, but not vice versa. 64-bit application will not work on 32-bit operating system. So this may save you some frustration. This concludes the very basic introduction to operating systems, file management, for file editing. Those are essential components required to write code. It may sound overly optimistic, but at this point you should know everything that is absolutely necessary in order to start HTML coding and start learning how to create your own web page. Well, thank you for listening, and come back for the next session.